because I always have like bad experience, with onboarding, even on project or companies. So that's why I want to share some of my experience, some of my recommendations for you guys. So if you are an onboarder, you can improve the onboarding experience, and if you are an onboarding, so you can communicate your expectations to the leaders. So before moving in, I have like two questions. I know we have a lot of questions, but still, I still need your answer to this question. So the first question is, have you ever felt frustrated with the onboarding process? Yes, and you may raise your hand. I'm expecting more than that, but it's like 20%. You guys are lucky. Okay, so the second question is, how long does it take you to start feeling, comfortable, like happy and then confident in the project? Okay, so let's start with 1 week. Anyone? Okay, that's fast learning. One month. That's I'm guessing like 20%. About 2 months. There's no way 2 months. All right. Okay. So I believe that my talk today is like largely beneficial to all of you. Okay. So well, it's hard. Okay. So let's quickly go over the agenda. So the first thing we're going to talk about what to document and how to write documentation better for the benefit of the newcomers. And the second thing is to helping the newcomers get familiar with the tech stack. And the third thing is the power of having separate development environments. And then the fourth thing is pair programming. The fifth thing is how to be supportive to your newcomers. And finally is multi-regular catch-up. Okay, so let's go over what documents. So I bet you all know the power of good documentation, especially for newcomers. Essentially, I think that a good documentation is pretty much everything a newcomer needs when they enter a new project, so that they can be confident working with others and working with the clients. So what is the good documentation from my personal opinion? So since this, because this is a data project, the first thing I would like to put out in the documentation is the data models. And in the data model, what we need is the who is the owner of the data models, and then what is the function of the data models? What does the model do, and what does each column do? And then the third thing is the granularity. Granularity is the very fancy name for the questions. What does a single row represent? And the fourth thing is the multi-realization strategy. So is it a table or a view, or like a multi-realized view if you are on Snowflake? And what is the update strategy? It is like drop and created every time, or like incrementally inserted, or like observed, or like merged. And then related to multi-realization is the data freshness. What is the update frequency? Is it like daily, or like weekly, or like bi-monthly, or something like that? And then finally, is some knowledge news about the data models. So a bonus point for you is that if you have the time, you can comment your code where the transformation logic is complicated. So this is an example of writing documentations in DBT. So you see here we have the model name is quite artificial views. So the listening is on purpose. The descriptions, we have the owner, the function, the remedies, all the things I mentioned before. And then for each column, we have the column name and then the description of the column. So the next thing is the ERD or the entity relationship diagram. So for entities, what you need is the data lineage. What is upstream model? What is downstream model? And how are all the models are related to each other. So you can see here again is DBT, and this is data lineage in DBT. So the green one is the source table, and all the not green one is the only transformation model. The staging, the data map, and then the any aggregation model. And the next thing is the so for each table we need to specify what is the primary key, what is the foreign keys of each models, and then the data type of each model. So this is an example of ERD in dbdiagram.io. So dbdiagram.io is a very cool tool to write ERD because you only need to write some code and then it will generate an ERD for you. So the first thing is you need to document your store procedures and the macros or any kind of functions you use in your data project. So what that include the arguments or the parameters of the functions, the function of the functions, and then any use case, that is like optionals, and finally some non-use about these functions. So this how we write recommendations for DB macros in DBT. We have the name of the macros, descriptions, and so for each argument we have the name of the arguments, the expected data type, and then the description. Okay, so the first three things I consider mandatory for any documentations. And the next two things are like optional. So bonus point. So the first bonus point is for coding style guide. So a coding style guide is a set of rules on how code should be presented for readability and understandability purpose. And in my opinion, it should be short and easy to follow to increase buy-in from the developers. So this is an example I take from my project I'm working on right now. The first thing is boolean should be prefixed with is or has. For example, like is active customer or like has any access. And use next thing is use sharing commas. So the commas come in after the column names, not before. And finally, it's use all lowercase unless you are required to do otherwise. Meaning that on the select, on the from, on the where, and or should be in lowercase. And the final bonus point is the pin charters. So what do you need to include in the pin charters? So from my experience, a pin charter should include the first thing is the purpose of the project. The second thing is the list of team members, their roles and responsibilities. And then the next thing is the set of shared value that are honors among all the members of the project. So taking from my project is collaborations, transparency, quality, and fun. Finally, it's the communication norms on how communication should be executed during the lifetime of the project. Also, another example is less emails, more Slack, and less meetings as much as possible. Okay, so the next thing is how to document better. So I know that running documentation is scary and it's boring, but it's even more scarier and more boring if you leave it to the last minute. So what I recommend you is to commit to taking one baby step every day. Meaning what? So you will write every day. You will commit yourself, write a small chunk of code. A small chunk of documentations And then by the end of the project, you will make a huge contributions to the project documentations. And then if you find that you don't have time to write documentations, then when you decide your ticket during the sprint planning, you need to estimate also the time to write documentations in addition to the time to to build the features. And finally, is that to make sure that everyone write documentations, you need to make having proper documentations an acceptance criteria for every PR. Okay, so the next thing is the principle of products or ELI5. ELI5 stands for explain line of 5. So products is a very famous, it's a very popular principle taken from the world of software engineering. So what does it mean? Imagine your readers, the readers of your documentations are like a bunch of products or like a bunch of bio kits, and now you go write a documentation for them. What does it mean? Specifically, it means that you will use simple language and avoid as much as possible business and technical jargons. And then you will use simple sentences to break down your thoughts, the verbals, because new lines are cheap and breakdown is expensive. And then use bullet points to present your documentations. And then if you find it too complicated to write down your documentations, then consider using diagrams or record videos. So here I wrap it up. That's right. Okay, so let's go over some tools to help you write documentation better. Why do I mentioned the loss activity is very handy in helping you writing good documentations. So apart from you can write documentation for almost everything, from data models to functions to sorts to everything. You can have a data lineage features to help you generate the data lineage from the code. You don't have to do any drawing at all. And also I mentioned DB diagrams. And this is Mermaid. So Mermaid generate diagrams from your Markdown text in a Markdown file. It is supported in GitHub and VS Code. So you can see here, you put down some Markdown text and it will generate a flowchart for you. Okay, so next thing is Lucid Chart. So this Lucid Chart is also a very famous, popular tools among all the engineers. But it has very good features. I help you to connect your Lucid Chart to your database or data warehouse, so that and then it will scan all the tables in your designated locations and then generate a DRD for you. So you can see here is all the DRD generated from connecting to the database. Finally, it's Loom. It's very simple. It's a tools that help you to record yourself and the screen at the same time, so you can explain your ideas without having to write out. So the next big thing is how do you use it? Having investigate familiar with tech stack. Yeah. So the first thing I would recommend you to do for the newcomers is to give them the needed permission and access to the requirements. Why? Because I bet that you have seen all these notifications pop up when you try to access log in to some tools, and it's very motivating, especially at the time you start entering the project. Why? Because it's involved many parties. Because each party will own a part of the environments, so we have to get them, and then we have to write email for them, and then we have to wait them to give you the access. So what you need to do is immediately after they enter the project, you need to guide them to the admin person that you can create an account, then give access to the certain repos or database or environments. And also, it should be under the principle of least privilege. Okay, so after they have all the needed permission and access, is need to set them up, like briefly introduce them to the new tools, then also to some basic features that you use in the project, and if you have some time, you can share some details and tricks. So the third thing is the power having separate development environment. Question: why? Why do I need a separate environment? Okay, so when you enter a project, when I enter a project, I always want to testing out to test my knowledge of the project. I want to build things. I want to playing around with it. But usually I don't have the confidence to do so because I'm afraid that I might break some things. And also by doing this, you can protect your instruction environment. So the first thing is you need to have a server in mid branches. Or it's very simple. You only need to encourage your new partners to clone the repo locally and then create a separate branch so they can do whatever they want. The second thing is the separate database or schema. So each developer should have their own schema or dataset or database to build and test their models. Again, this will give them confidence, but also it will keep the database clean and also to prevent people from overwriting their other models while they are developing. But DBT again. So DBT is very handy in this context. So if you want your own environment, your own database in DBT, what you need to do is first thing is to specify your preferred schema name. So with this, I remember this has the pointers. All right, never mind. So you can see here in the schema, it's a DBT Jerry. So that's my preferred schema name. And in the project configuration file, I specify the production schema name. So it's like SQ sale or SQ marketing and things like that. And then what DBT will do is it will concatenate the two names together and give you the name of your personal schema. So you see here is DBT Jerry SQ sale. And another person is DBT Tom DBT sale. So finally, it's a separate warehouse. This I believe is very personal. Use Snowflake. So each workload has its own warehouse. So if it's for ingestions or extraction data, then it can have its own warehouse ingest. If it's for reporting purpose, it has own warehouse reporting. So what I think is newcomers can have their own warehouse too, so that they won't consume more than they should, and their queries won't block other queries in the query queue. Okay, so let's talk about pair programming. So what is pair programming? It's very simple. It's two persons involved in a coding challenge. And one person is the driver. The driver is the one who code and the one who narrates that code. And the navigator is the one who watch the driver code and then look out for any mistake and expected to ask a lot of questions to challenge the driver. So what is the benefit of pair programming in the context of welcoming a new person into the project? The first thing is that you can rely on how to solve a particular problem. The second thing is to rely on how to code to solve that problem. And finally, for the drivers, you can get a valuable feedback from a pair device. So before going to the next slide of how to pair programming better, I have this question for you. So when learning something new, do you prefer to do it online or offline? So if online, please raise your hand. Raise your hand. 50% will do. So I guess the other prefer on offline, right? Okay, so in my experience, pair programming is essentially is me learning something about the other persons. Either I'm a driver or I'm a navigator. And when learning something new, I prefer to do it in person or offline because it's more engaged for both persons. And it's easier for me to navigate around. Like if you want to point to to discuss a chunk of code, your part of code, I can just point to the screen of the other person. And for pair programming, I prefer to choose an easy task or just a small part of a task. And it should be an actual task to make the newcomers feel like they are contributing to the project. And I prefer it to split into 45 to 50-minute sessions. And the next thing is you should plan ahead. You should prepare the objectives and the plan of the pair programming sessions. And make sure the block time reference. It shouldn't be like, hey, I have like 30 minutes. Do you want to do a pair programming? But personally, I find it's very disrespectful to the other people's times. Okay, so during the sessions, the first thing is together, I want two of you to analyze the requirements and then sketch out some steps. And then the driver start to write the code. And then during the sessions, make sure that you check in with your partners. You make sure that they are engaged. And don't forget to take breaks because I know that pair programming can be very mentally exhausting. And don't forget also to celebrate small successes like this boy right here. And for the drivers, be open to feedback. And then after the sessions, what I like to do is to give the newcomers a homework. Again, it should be a small and easy task, or you can just finish the current one if you are in the middle. I got your back on how to be supported. So what I would like to do for every newcomers in my project is I want to join them in the first few client meetings. Why? It will help to reduce the anxiety that are normally found in the newcomers when they first encounter with the clients. And also you can be sure that the newcomers understand the requirement clearly. So some small caveats is that you should ask if they want you to join the meetings. And if yes, then you should ask them if they want you to lead the meetings or they can lead the meetings by themselves. Okay, so some advice for you is that if you can, it will be very valuable if you can introduce the newcomers to the clients and the clients to the newcomers. And if you have some mini games or like funny stories, you can tell them at the start of meetings to break the ice. And finally, I want you to be proactively pause the meeting to provide any clarifications, any for the difficult or the complicated terminologies or requirements. Okay, so finally, is the beauty of private catch up. How are you doing? Okay, so it should be quick chat. You can drop some message to the other person Slack, or you can have like 5-minute calls with them. More than that, it's very formal. And what are you going to talk about in the quick chat? First thing is you check with them how they're doing with the current task. And if they are struggling, then you can offer some help. Only if you have the capacity to do so. And then check in with them how they're feeling. If negative, then encourage them to talk with the project managers, the delivery lead of the project. And don't forget to give them some words of encouragement. And finally, you can talk about some non-work topics, like some shared hobbies or interest, or like some, or you can ask how their day was, or how their weekend was, or talking about the upcoming plan for the future, for the summer holidays, for Christmas. So guys, after stripping all the roles and responsibilities, after taking off all the hats that you have to wear for the project, we are just human, and we have emotion and feelings. So please be nice and kind to each other. So that is the end of my talk. Thank you for listening. Okay, so this time is for question. Do you have any questions before I check the slide?
For the individuals and newcomer to go into the real project. So what do you think the topic that is the most important when we are going?
Well, the most important thing is the first one I mentioned is documentations. You need to keep them the documentations because, as I said, it's pretty much everything you need to company. We can, I mean, learning something new is very struggling without any guidance, without any textbook. And the other thing is that it will be best if you can join them in the first few client meetings so that they can be less nervous. And the third thing is, the third thing is to have a separate environment. So they can have confidence. One is very important to have confidence to do anything. Does that answer the question? Great, thank you. Okay, so serious questions. In your opinion, what would be a good approach for onboarders? And onboarding if the company doesn't have an onboard process? Wow, that's a difficult one. I mean, what kind of company that doesn't have a onboard process? No, I don't mean anything, but onboarding. So probably you're talking about a startup because in startup they usually don't have. It's very messy and they don't have an onboarding process. Okay, so this is my. So I worked in a startup before. In a food and beverage startup, and sure there is no documentation. So this I think should be coming more from the onboardees. They should be proactive. They should have a lot of questions to ask, prepare a lot of questions, and be very, very proactive and very proactive in asking a lot of questions. Because if you don't ask, you don't have the answers. And then for the onboarders, well, I guess the onboarders is one of your colleagues, and he is or she is probably busy with her own task. So if you can talk with the managers to leave out sometimes during the day or like 1 hour during the day, we talk with the onboardees to share what he or she already know about the project with the onboardees. Then you can then I think this is better for the onboarding. And so for the onboarders, well, why? So you might ask the question, why do I need to spend my time for this person? Well, if you think in the long term, these newcomers will eventually be your partners, and he or she will be helping you a lot with your project work. So as the sooner he or she become confident and has the skills that you have to work in the project, then he can help you a lot. Okay, so going to the next questions. Creating a sign-off sheet, sheet full of positions, names, and tasks, and that everyone will. That's the very good suggestions. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, should prepare a list of what you need, and then you can change what you need, and then what you can get it from, and who is responsible for giving you that. Then you can go to every department, then change people to give you what you need. Yes.
So we're in the organization that I used or I worked with that did that, they used it for a twofold thing. They didn't just have the specific mechanic things, go here, get your account made, go there, get your access card. They also included go here to all the positions of the place and just meet the person who's might possibly need to know you. So that way it's not just the mechanics of it, but also you actually get to see all of the building. And that way you don't get lost later on. They're like, hey, go see them in HR.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Carl. So what about career mentors? Well, I haven't thought about that because actually I don't have a mentors. But yeah, but it's good if you have a mentors, especially in your companies. But I feel it's like it's kind of a luxury. I mean, if you can afford that, it can be very valuable. Again, thank you, Carl. Another question: why should someone already in the field write up? Why many haven't doing it? Why should someone already in the field write up? Well, okay, so I'm getting a little bit confused here. Why should someone already in the field write up? Why should it? Okay, so may I ask who has these questions? Can you provide more? Okay, can you provide more?
So
Next.
essentially what the motivation for somebody that they are already on the team, right?
Yeah.
They onboard already. Like why should they spend time on writing document that they themselves may not do it?
So because they don't read the documentation, then they don't need to write the documentation.
So the fact say that you say that you don't have a lot of good onboarding status.
Yeah.
And you say that oftentimes you don't have enough document.
Yeah.
That means that many people haven't granted it. Right? They definitely have team member on your team, but they don't write.
Yes.
Then why?
Oh, so why they? Well, because I think there can be many reasons. But maybe because the project team doesn't have strict policy on writing documentations.
Well, police they can be part of it.
They can. Well, but then okay. So a bad documentations that getting into the set of documentation that you already have is the result of not of the other persons not reviewing the documentation.
Well, reviewing is another part, right? So your team already if the team not investing on writing document, there are no chance that they are doubling the cost to invest in reviewing the document. They really did from the first place.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one good perspective. Why really I don't have a question. I'm sorry, a solution or answer to your question right now.
Concern back from your from your presentation. Why you say that a lot of people they don't write documentation and do you want to know the reason why, or you want to hear a suggestion from us?
I'm growing for some good discussion.
Okay,
Okay.
great, cool. So,
Yeah, so I guess the bad governance on the project team is one, and then also the motivations. You're right, people that have a lot of good motivations to write documentations, write documentation, not to say, not even to mention, good documentations.
so to start first, encourage people to continue writing the document and also have a chance to review that if we, like have new members, also we have a chance during the project to review the document that we have. I think at this time is what we can answer, and we would love to hear from you more. If you have any suggestions about how we can, continue writing the document or new member better, with better experience.
Sorry for interruption. I want to add some more points to Gary's point about documentation. Yeah, I do understand that so many people they don't want to write more documentation in their work because of not really the main reason is kind of a duplication of their efforts. So they're spending their time on the code, they're spending time on implementing the logic, and then they still have to write a bunch of words that may be can be in any kind of form, in the form of the document, in the form of the spreadsheets, and they know that sometimes they know that the effort will not be recognized or the documentation is not really fully utilized by the employees. So I from the wider perspective, or maybe from the macro views, maybe in the policy of the company, it is not the kind of the topics that we can discuss or we can talk much about because we don't know much about that. But what I can share to you is that by using DBT, the way we use DBT is that DBT is not a kind of a magic tool, but it also helps us to have a place or have a framework so that you can both write your code and document at the same time. So that when you finish your code and then you can just put more configuration, put more information to your YAML file that contain information contain columns, data type, the description, what kind of text that you want to implement for each specific columns from the model. So when you finish in your YAML file, when you publish that documentation via the mechanism of DBT documentation, so any newcomers or any new joiners into the project, to the company, can go to can maybe a portal or a dashboard that they can still see most of the I'm not saying all, but most of the essential and necessary materials or information that is related to the project. So, for example, what does the table mean? What are the kind of the logic inside? What does each column mean? What does each column means? What is the kind of the required data type? What are the kind of associated text? So I mean that by adopting or by having a good mechanism or having how can I say a kind of a good framework is one of the kind of a solution, not really a solution, but one of the good tackles to address the motivation, we call the motivation that people did not want to write document.
Okay. I think that a great point that you bring up. Writing good and consistent document is not easy. So like DBT is like one of the good tool that like iterate everything and write the document easy. Yeah, sure. So there are many things that it can just infer from the data structure, like the data type and then the data type is exactly the same. Come from the data pipeline, and we only need to write the business like some description. The other part is that I think like many people naively take culture as how do I say, culture does not happen by like, it's something that happened by chance. So like, using where you work, so I guess that's why like, you said, oh, I thought I assumed that, but like, now somebody asked.
Absolutely, all right. Thanks so much for your questions and the question with us on this.
Yeah, well, that's a funny story. So I worked in the company before. And then when I first entered, in my first work day, I asked where is the documentations? And the guy sent it to me, or to the other guy. So it is the documentation.
Okay.
All right, so thank you for the discussion. Thank you. Yes.
Recently, we have just so actually just to get happy to more in this Americans. I only the team, so I will have everyone to stay up. So I write report and I have to this report or I write my comment or my introduction about the report and I have to everyone is going to okay. So if the time you understand it can make this better can open discussion. So that is very good to result luckily for the good example. And so like another thing I want to say is I have I read. So we're talking about number. So many people would like to provide the document and only few people write document and say become the sender and so if you want to look at very become sender. So the thing that the people do that
Okay.
You can put it in another way, like if you go over a document, you have to use
Thank you for the suggestions. That's a very good one. Yeah, ChatGPT is now getting in every way of our workings right now. You can write our code, and then now you step up, you can also write the documentations. Well, I guess maybe our work swing. Okay, so let's moving on to the other questions. Because we just have a lot of the questions.
If there any parents to check that the documentation is actually good, because my last project I had some documentation for my presentation. It's not really that good, so I read the documentation. I help grant the whole main point of projects. So I had a little bit lot of time to read last project. So is there any any qualification of good documentation?
Well, I guess it depends on the project, on the company's department that I work with, let's say, because it's not every but it's not the same for everywhere. So what I have suggested, we are already on the slide. It's just some suggestions that I use that I consider good documentations. So maybe you can ask the project leaders, or you can start with him about the standard on documentations, and then you can use that standard to compare with what you receive in the documentation, and you will know that is a good documentation or not. I guess that's the only way. That's all. Yes.
Yeah, in my experience, talking about how the team works is normally the picture is kind of like, okay, the data team write the pictures and they just use the data, And after the later he the dashboard or he has something is the study and the post done. Nothing to right now. So next step we put in the next feature. So the best thing about explore about Doxy is my things like Doxy just a rough feature. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you work on a feature and you write off, and you don't write off, you don't complete that feature. Yes, yeah, yes. I think that's right, bro. You don't think is okay, I have data, is and then no, something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's right. All right, so any more questions before I move into the slide? Okay, so the next question is that what strategy would you use to explain your modelizations model to end users, non-technical? Well, that's the very good questions. Let me think about that.
Actually, it's my question, but let me rephrase it. For example, I'm working right now with a company, and my stakeholders are just the CEOs.
Yes.
So the thing is, like, when you create implementation, for me, like, there's two parts. There's like technical parts when you try to elaborate what you do with your code and like, explain in a better way what this part of your CTE of your model is doing, but also I have to create documentation or final exposure of metrics. Like sometimes the metrics can be a little hard to understand. And how can DBT help for the non-technical user like my boss, for example, with nothing to do with coding and so on, can help to expose the explanation of final metric and expose for dashboard or
Okay. So your question is how DBT can help you to explain your models to non-technical users.
yeah.
So I think that non-technical user is not used to go into DBT to read documentations. And yeah, that's well, I haven't thought about that when I do this when I do prepare for the talk. I left out the non-technical users in the documentation part. But what I would say is that what strategy? Maybe for technical users, it is better if you can use diagrams because to visualize to visualize the data process. That one thing, and then you can take you can give some examples of you can give an you say of this data model so that they can understand what this data model do. That's wow, that's a really good question. I will spend more time.
I need to get into trouble straight away, but it's just like to do some because my work also I want to so I'm the only one doing SQL and like propose modelization for some space on like Power BI and so on. Sometimes they ask me a question about like, oh, but how to do this metric? It's based on the code I did on the meeting, but I don't want to show them some technical stuff, so I want to just to explain with that. So for example, when I do, it's like for example, I use like Power BI and I create a specific page where I explain like in pure English, plain English, what the metric does. Like for example, I explain with words and so on, what the metric does. But sometimes I think I duplicate work because I do my coding and explain the code. But the code is not sufficient to give the class to the end user.
Yeah.
So I like sometimes they think to extract some of the coding brain to a more business brain and explain with pure English. But it's just like insights and or maybe you have like also experience where the guys are like oh, it's too technical or you like just maybe for the example, sometimes it's not very simple. It's super, I think it's a question that many people face.
Yeah, well, it's a real struggling. It is very struggling because data people is working in the overlap between the engineering and the business work. So that's why when we do something, we have to explain to both. And what just popped in my mind is that for DBT, the DBT metric feature is now available, and now DBT metrics, and then I mean. If it's you can write documentation for the metrics in DBT, and that documentations will be written with the business reader in mind, and then the rest of them, I mean all the upstream models will be written with the technical users in your mind. That's how it can solve. Can help to solve the problems. The next question is how did you change your way of working between engineering and analytics? Okay. Okay. So not really related to my talk today, but I'm very happy with this question. One experience is that before I worked as a as a business intelligence for an e-commerce company, and now I'm working as an analytic engineer for this Lambda. And what is changed is that DBT helped me to use employ the not to employ is to DBT helped me get familiar with the principle of writing good code from engineering work. What I mean is that you should modularize write code in module, and then if to repeat yourself. That's something that DBT taught me. Is that if you find a piece of code that is constantly repeating throughout the project, well, you should write a function for it. And then then I guess in the engineering DBT helped me to get familiar with the how to structure a data project. In comparison to my previous job, we don't have actually a data project. Or that's just some things that pop up in my mind. Well, I'm sure that there are a lot more, but concept. Okay, so the next question is not really a question, but please move the projector without in the back and see the emotion on the buttons. Yeah, sorry about that. That's some technical issue. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.